if we've got about another 30 minutes or so left on this, can we change gears just a little bit and talk about like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on COVID, but as we all start to come back, do you guys have any idea of what this might look like going forward? When's the next time you think we'll hang out at a tattoo convention?
That's a really good question, man. We could do tattoo conventions, but like it would be appointment only, and the booths would be like 2 booths apart from each other.
I think going back to like a tattoo gathering,
yeah, you wouldn't need like the main room of the hotel anymore. You could probably just shove us all into a van somewhere. I don't know, like some small.
So if you look at history and look at past pandemics, most of them lasted 2 years. So like you could see the curve going, and after 2 years, it's just completely flat. So I think it's going to be a 2-year process, like all the other ones. So.
Yeah.
I think going back in, it'll be a chance to have. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I just think it'll be a chance to have tattoo gatherings again, kind of a little more how, at least I would say maybe 10 or 15 years ago, they were more popular. It's just a gathering of artists who want to get together. You don't have to worry about making money and people feeling comfortable enough to come in as far as the general public is concerned, that tattooers can still get together and get some of that camaraderie and work on art and machines and kind of get that side of it. I've always been a little baffled by the way tattoo conventions work anyway, just in that, we're one of the only industries where you go there to a convention, normally about meeting people and opening doors and, seeing all the new equipment and stuff. And we actually tattoo there. And it's like, man, how weird would that be if, like, dentists, you go there and they're pulling molars out, doing fillings at the convention. They're pulling tumors out, how I always thought it was a little strange that we feel obligated to perform what we do to some degree, at lesser effectiveness than we do at home, and it's great because it's not just a spectacle, but it's also something unique that makes it work. But I also don't feel like we have to be so tied to that money-making part of it that we lose the camaraderie and the convention part of it, I feel like we can easily have everybody get together and do the rest of it. And then when the public feels comfortable enough, or even more likely, you tell everyone they can't come, and then they'll be beating the door down. And then, a year later we'll have fucking massive conventions again. But, we can do it on our own first.
So my question is, like, as far as the money-making process goes, I think because the booths cost so much money and the hotels, you feel very obligated to go and make money because you have to cover that weekend of being away from the shop. Mm-hmm. So maybe, like, the cost was lower, we could go and do that and just talk amongst ourselves.
Yeah, if you run it just like a vacation between a bunch of friends, tell everybody, hey, we're going to go here and meet here. We can put like a wedding. You say, okay, we're going to reserve this many rooms. Everybody has to pay for their own room, and we can use the convention, the small room on the side. It doesn't have to be huge anymore. If everybody can pitch in this much, then we can make it work. We can still do it just at a much smaller scale. But yeah, we're not making any money back. But for what I feel like I get out of those experiences, the things I take away from every convention. It's never the tattoo idea. It's never the money I made. Even if you get like a best of day thing, it's cool. But it's always the time at the bar afterwards, or when you're, you find the guy who's not as busy either, and then you go talk to him for an hour and you end up picking up some really cool stuff. It's the personal interactions that are the most valuable. So if I have to pay out of pocket to get that, and even maybe to have only that, I'll gladly do that. I mean, that doesn't mean I'm fucking, I got money coming out of me everywhere, but I'd certainly try to make it work.
Putting a face to that person that you've been friends with on Instagram for the last 2 years that you've never met in real life, and
exactly. It's like, I had no idea you were a 16-year-old Korean girl. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think going back to what Robin was saying earlier about the 2-year cycle, or after 2 years the curve flattens out. I just think that with this particular pandemic today, the way it's happening and people are like just hyper alert about everything. I think that even if it does run its cycle at the 2-year point, I don't think anything's going to change much after that. I just feel like we're so far in the future right now.
Yeah.
Like we're almost at the time that they talked about in the Jetsons. I think the Jetsons talked about like 2024, I think was like the year. So we're not that far from that, And with everybody on such high alert and everybody's freaking out and we're all wearing masks are now like a fashion thing.
Yep.
Like at first it was just like, I'll get another N95. No, now everybody needs like, I don't know, a custom Disney or a Wu-Tang or whatever it is mask, and it's like, I don't think that's going to change. I think there's so many aspects of this that we've been affected so adversely by this that it's just not going to go back.
Yes.
A lot of us really knew that though. A lot of us knew that we could be doing more. We're in this weird spot as tattooers where we know that we technically are exposed more and we're exposing our clients to more than we necessarily have to. Now, we don't always want to look like an asshole and have our face covered with all this crazy shit. But, I don't think any one of us hasn't had that thought at some point where you're doing, a tattoo and you can smell the blood, or you're getting a little aerosol mist off of a big liner and you might be at the end of the day, just like if you're running an airbrush, you might see a little mist on your arm or on the, part of your clothes or anything else. You're breathing that in just the same. So for us to, say that we shouldn't ever be wearing face masks or at least maybe an overall shield, if somebody can make one of those for tattooers, so we actually look cool instead of like a bunch of assholes, then people might pick it up. Most of us are more worried about looking cool than doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I get it. But, we're going to need to find some middle ground somewhere there. And I think most of us have known for a while that, like, this is something we could do. We just didn't necessarily want to go over that. And I think this may be the thing to push us over that edge towards that. What we're seeing right now is the entire public, all of us have had somebody at the shop, like an apprentice or a counter person come in, and we have to get them certified for BBP, and they learn about germs and sterilization, and they go through the same freak out that all of us did when we were apprentices. Where for the first year, you think everything's going to kill you. They're getting gloves all the way to their armpit, 3 helmets on and shit. And they're freaking out about everything everywhere all the time, and then that tapers down after a while. But everybody has that first freak out. And I think the interesting thing now is that same thing we've always seen counter people do for the first 6 months of a year, we're seeing the entire nation do as one. Yeah. So it's going to be a while where we got to let everybody decide where they're going to go with that. Ignore it or not, as a whole, we're all going through a little bit of a freak out, and we're all going to have to, go over the top at first, come down the other side. Most of us tattooers are used to all that stuff already, so I don't think any of us are really that scared. We're just annoyed by it. But we almost have to look at them in that same way. It's like they're the overly scared apprentice. Give them 6 months. They'll figure it out. Even if the curve does take 2 years to taper, we're also looking at hopefully having a vaccine, and we'll have to say maybe March next year. That might help. But I think, if anything, just the tone and the mood from people is going to be, that's the big determining factor for us. Comfort, how comfortable can we make people? How comfortable the public be coming in? And that's where, we got to go the extra mile and have to wear a face mask, look like Darth Vader for a little bit just to do that. But it's not that bad in the end. I think, honestly, we all knew that we probably would have to do that or could be doing that at some point anyway. So regularly, maybe from now on out, we'll have those available. When we get up close, maybe it won't be so strange to see somebody drop down at least a plastic face shield or something,
Right.
So
a lot of that. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead, Robin, go.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I read an article like how the world isn't going to change as much as you think. They referred it to no one imagined walking around on like a sunny Sunday down in lower Manhattan after 9/11, but people are doing it. So we're going to get back to that normal. It's eventually we're going to get past this as humans, because that's just our nature. Our nature is to move on and socialize and want to be with each other again. So I don't think that it's going to change tattooing completely. I think that our protection is going to be the big change.
Right.
Yeah, probably for the better.
Also changing some of the
go ahead, Howie. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I was just going to say, I know a lot of people, when they go get tattooed, they talk about the experience behind it, and the things that, not just getting the tattoo, but their overall experience in the shop, their, the way they got along with their artists, the way they got along with their artist coworkers, and the decor in the shop, whatever it might be. And they're going to be doing away with things like waiting rooms and people sitting in the lobby waiting and interacting with people. That a lot of that's going to go away.
Yes.
So that overall tattoo experience that a lot of clients talk about, that's not going to exist anymore.
I think temporarily.
in that way. Yeah.
You think that'll come back around too?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it'll have to. Everything goes in cycles, man. It'll come back.
Yeah.
Let me. Emily was saying we had some questions. Let me get a question real quick. What was the question?
Tony Sonic wants to know. He said, obviously, this online gathering will happen again. It's too good to pass on. With actual conventions, can't we set up further apart, limit entrance? For sure, the profit will be lower, but for some conventions, it might be worth it to keep it alive. And
can y'all hear her at all, or do I need to repeat all this? Can you guys hear?
Just, what y'all just elaborating on what y'all talked about on keeping them alive and just trying to change the way that you do them. And then somebody else commented and said they'd love to have an artist-only convention, and that'd be great. Yeah,
I love it. I'd like to get to that too. So someone was just saying basically like this virtual type of convention they've enjoyed so far, and it's something that I think will go forward. And with Guy, I think is into the idea a lot, and he's got enough influence that if he gets it going, it may not be something that you even have to like do it just a couple of times a year. I mean, if you may find that people are just doing like virtual. Well, it's kind of like live streaming right now, but you could do it in groups and regions or whatever. So you may find new things come out kind of like that. But what was the last thing you said? I was going to make another point. The artist only conventions, more like traditional trade shows. I think the reason we don't see that is because there's just not enough steady innovation to fill a decent size, like, whatever hall to have a bunch of booths with new things happening in tattooing. That's unfortunate because the industry has grown to a point and we're starting to get outsiders in, kind of like Sean, who I was talking about. I don't think you have to be a tattooer to have good ideas about aspects of tattooing, but I would love to see more like for real trade shows.
Trade show and art show combination. I mean, like Ape and Comic-Con and all those are huge. And we've got artists, and I think what little trade show parts we have could easily fill the gaps between what artists aren't doing. And I think it'd be pretty easily if we combine those two elements to have an amazing show. It's just, it's a lot to coordinate. It's like anybody who's ever put together a convention will tell you it's a fucking nightmare. It's expensive. It's difficult in a lot of ways. So somebody's got to have the means and ability to put that together. But I think it's there. It's not going to be the money-making venture it once was, but I think it could be a great thing.
Yeah. Let me pose a different kind of question on the future of tattooing. So right now, it's my understanding that there's not a single dry pigment that is processed in the United States. All the dried pigments that come to every ink manufacturers come from China, or typically China. Same thing. There's not a single needle making machine left in the United States. Everything we can't build a cartridge here. So let's just say, obviously, there's a lot of distrust. There's a lot of craziness happening with international kind of relations, particularly with China. We're not seeing it right now because no one's tattooing. But my guess is, and I actually reached out to Derb when I first was thinking about this to ask him if he was still ordering stuff through TrueTubes and if they were having any trouble with getting supply in, and he said absolutely, it's super slow. They're not getting anything. Communication is poor. Sean, the guy I was talking about before, said that their manufacturers for S8, and he also has an interest in a few other like cosmetic tattooing brands and stuff, and he said that he feels like their manufacturers are lying to them. They said they're back to work, and he said I can pull up Google Earth and tell that no one's there. There's no pollution being generated. No one's working. So we may not know this at this point because we're not tattooing enough, and maybe there's enough supply left in U.S. distributors. Maybe Kingpin has enough to get us through a little while. But if it's unleashed and we all start tattooing again, we just get back in 2 or 3 months and suddenly we can't buy needles. I mean, what happens then? I'm typically an optimist, but this is something I think could be a real concern, because at the same time as this, we're developing more of like, just as a country, more of like a protectionist type of mindset. I think people want to bring things back, bring manufacturing back here. We don't need to be so reliant on other places. It leads to a more kind of conservative mindset that may not be as like tattoo friendly. Maybe coming out of this, people don't, we revert back a little bit. So if you have the combination of us not being able to tattoo, along with a population that maybe starts to tattoos had a huge wave. Maybe the population starts to drop off because they can't get tattooed anyways. You know what I mean? I think there's at least that's a discussion that should be had.
You know what? I'm ordering right now. I got to make an order right now. Hang on.
Right.
Well, the popularity in tattooing always goes in waves. It's like anything else. You see every 5 to 10 years, it goes up and down, just like pop music or anything else. It gets kind of dull for a while. It gets retro. Tattooing's been really lucky that in the last 15, 20 years we're getting TV shows and all that. So rather than going through full waves, it's kind of gone up, and it's plateaued, and it's gone up, and it's plateaued. It will drop back down to some degree, but I don't think it'll go away. Tattooing, even when it was fully almost impossible to find and illegal, people find a way. That's definitely going to cut a lot of the people that are, professional, but to some degree still hobbyists, that they might find a different job, mm-hmm. and that, might not be all bad. The people who are really dedicated to it will find a way to weather the storm, and the people who aren't, they'll find another thing with a steady paycheck somewhere else. And I think it's part of the growth cycle. It might be uncomfortable for sure. I would be, even if not from that, I would be surprised if we don't see a downturn to some degree soon, just because it's the natural cycle of things. So I wouldn't get too worried about that. Just know that, we got to be flexible. We got to be innovative. So, we do have to think about how we can get ahead of stuff. And things, if we have to, we can go and do the painstaking route and do it like Japanese and make it handmade. I'll go kill a shark and do it like the Polynesians, with their teeth and a paddle and a hammer, and we'll make this shit happen, But it's going to take the people who are more dedicated to do it. And I don't necessarily see that as being all bad. It might be tough times, but tough times, pressure makes diamonds. That's where we're going to get the best stuff too. So I'm kind of excited to see what turns out and see not just who gets through the other side, but how people get through the other side. Yeah. I really like to see who weathers a storm,
Yeah.
And things are changing. It's crazy. This is such a crazy time. When I think about it like this, it's insane. We used to get everything's changing. It's even dealing with all of this is coming in cycles too. I remember when it first all started to come together, this has nothing to do with tattooing really, but like my daughter and I would be out for a walk to stretch our legs and get some exercise. Because honestly, fuck being in the house all day long, And I really didn't give a shit what everybody was saying. Like, stay inside. There was like the stay-at-home Nazis at the time. Like, people were insane. And like, we'd go out and we'd go for a walk, and I'd be getting dirty looks from people. Like, seriously. And now you go out for a walk, and everybody's out for a walk. The park they say that there's like our beaches. I live in a beach community in California, and they did like a soft opening, and then they were like soft closing, and then next thing you knew, like all these people from all these other counties were here because their beaches weren't open. It's just madness. Like, this is just
it's that first part of that curve. It's like The Apprentice. The first time they finally get comfortable and they rip off those giant full arm gloves. Now they're just down to the regular gloves. They're starting to get used to it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's it is crazy. And it's funny to see how it's happened. That's why I kind of like tried to pull this group from different like sections of the country. Although you guys are both from California, but I've got a tattoo technology startup that I've got a partner, and he is based out of Madrid, Spain, and they got hit pretty hard, and their lockdown was so crazy. Like, we have a weekly call like this, and he would literally have to like change the call time or jump out early because it was his assigned time to go to the grocery. Like, they only let 5 people into the grocery store, and they broke it down by like little sections. And he was like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I've got to be at the grocery store in like 5 minutes, and I only have 20 minutes in there before I have to be out." It's just like listening to someone say that, like you're saying, Howie, how crazy this all is. It's like, if you go back 6 months, and I think about hearing someone tell me that, or walking into my own grocery store and seeing all the masks, it's just like, what the hell happened? How did that happen so fast?
When we were at Due South,
yeah.
So like leading up to Due South, I was on the road. Like, by the time Due South ended, it was almost a month of being on the road straight for me. So I missed out on the toilet paper thing. I missed out on a lot of stuff. Like, when I got home, it was funny because like the evolution of it was like from Hawaii to Mississippi to Oregon to back to California. Like, it climbed, and I saw it. I heard it in my rental cars. You can't find a station in some weird state, so you just turn on whatever news you could find, and like all I heard about was COVID-19, and they were talking about the toilet paper and all this, and like just madness. And then by the time I got back to LAX, it was just madness. It was like some post-apocalyptic mad scene out of Mad Max, and just craziness. It was so crazy.
We literally hit the very last, I think, tattoo convention there was. Like, we were in Mississippi, so they were the last ones to shut down. everything was shut down. We were in a casino there. Due South is in a casino. And I was fully prepared at any point for someone just to walk by and say, hey, shut this shit down. This thing is over. Literally, the convention was open over Sunday. Monday, they shut down all Mississippi casinos, like hours after we packed up.
Crazy. My parents were at home freaking out while I was out there. They're like, you're not, first it was, you're in Hawaii. They were freaking out about Hawaii. Then it was like, you're not seriously going to do this Mississippi thing, right? And I was like, yeah. I mean, I'm like, the guy that put the show on is keeping the show on. So I'm not going to not go, you know? And then they were like, oh, wait, you're not seriously going to Oregon, are you? And I was like, I mean, well, Evergreen was obviously canceled, but I still did the guest spot, you know, up there and took care of all my clients. And it was just crazy. By the end, I remember by the end of the Oregon trip, I was just miserable. I just wanted to be home so bad. I remember finishing up Sunday night on my last client, and she was so cool too. And I know that my attitude had definitely taken a shift somewhere along the line, because we were just like joking and laughing and talking shit all day. And then by the end of the night, like somewhere along the line, something in my head snapped, and all I could think about was just going home, just being there. And then God, getting home and just like madness. I remember I stopped at a Target on the way home to get some toilet paper. I didn't realize it was exactly what they said it was. I'm like thinking, no, maybe they're like exaggerating. No. Nobody was exaggerating. There was nothing. So, crazy.
We've only got about 5 minutes left. So I've been thinking about starting this new series that we're calling 3 Minutes to Better Tattooing, because our shows are too long for YouTube. People only watch the first 9 minutes of it. So if I do 3 minutes, I'm going to like leave them wanting more. And so what I've been thinking about doing is trying to get with good tattooers and just come up with like nuggets that we can like drop. What I'll probably do to start is pull from our old, like our technique episodes and pull little pieces, maybe pull some of like the machine, like what's a direct drive machine stuff, and just see how it lands with viewers. But I know I'm putting you guys on the spot completely. Can you guys like just help me brainstorm and think about what kind of tips you might give in a 3 minutes to better tattooing segment? It doesn't have to be the act of tattooing. It can be anything associated.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 5 minutes to set up so we know we can get to the 3 minutes.
Nice. There's a million things.
There's gloves and it was over.
I'm a little wary to put the actual act of tattooing stuff online, but I am a big proponent of learning. I know it sounds there's a weird spot there, but I really want to encourage that. So I feel like most of what I would be talking about would be process, and would be things like I'd love to go into technique. That's something I wouldn't want to put online in that way. But art technique can be really good. But more than anything, the technique of understanding how to put art together and why to put art together a certain way for tattooing would be good. As well as maybe talk about techniques. You can talk about some of the techniques. I just wouldn't necessarily show them. Even like some of the stuff that I do that's a lot different from what other people do with my, layering and just some of the concept of really developing your artwork more. A lot of that you can probably find online as illustrators, but it is a bit different for tattooers. There's more balls to juggle. There's more things there that we got to worry about. So, you could find a fun way to maybe just address one little topic at a time, and you can probably fill quite a bit with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'd forgotten that we had that discussion before, because you had a lot of great ideas, and we're talking about building some seminars whenever I was in San Diego and we were hanging out. And I don't know if you ever put any of them out, but I remember us having that same discussion, and I was and I'd forgotten that you were super hesitant to put out a lot of technical stuff. And of course, we didn't do a lot of that for a long time, and now I think we do it strategically, where we give just enough. I feel like you have to solve some problem to earn someone's attention. And we're not going to go tattooing A to Z for people, but if someone's having a specific problem, their lines are blowing out. Well, I'm not going to stop them from blowing lines out if they, you know what I mean? Like, they're doing it right now. So if I just say, if I can do a 3-minute video that says like, hey, this will help your line work, but that's that's a real surface problem. Why do you even want a bold line or a thin line? Let's talk about that first.
That's exactly.
So I use it more to lead people in to learning. It's just hard to bully people into, you know, you don't need to know this, but listen to me on all the things you do need to know.
Well, for me, it's not necessarily about bull, because I know it can easily come off as, oh, this is, you know, or that kind of old school mentality of, oh, this is like sacred knowledge, which in some ways I believe, but I just feel there's a better way to do it. Like I would rather, just because of the way my mind works, I do a better job showing somebody than telling them. So if I do this as a workshop, I'll gladly teach new people, but I'll do it as a workshop where I can meet with them one-on-one. But more than anything, when I have taught people, I found that in the end, most of the time, they all actively, they want to learn. They're excited. They talk to me about the stuff they want to learn. When I tell them, they listen. But when they act to do it, they don't actually follow any of the advice that I give them. And whatever, that's up to them. People are going to do what they're going to do. But that is what it really shows me, is what it comes down to, is that not everybody necessarily values why it should be done different. So I think that's where I feel like that's the most important disconnect, in my opinion, is the why this is important, why this is going to impact your life, and why focusing on this is going to change your life more than, I could show somebody how to make a slightly cleaner line, or I can show them, you know, the difference, why it's important to know that a bad line really is going to be bad in the long run, and, you know, a good line is going to make somebody appreciate your work and come back, and you not stress out and feel bad about yourself and all this stuff. So I think that addressing that why is probably more important than addressing the how. You know?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Super good point.
Mm-hmm. All right, Howie, you're up. Tell us what do I do on 3 minutes to better tattooing?
Oh shit, that's I don't know. I mean, for me, I don't know.
Do you want to come back to you?
Want to grow mustache? I mean,
I was going to mention your mustache when you first came on. It looks great.
My quarantine mustache. Yeah, the beard came off, but the beard's coming back though. I'm going to let it go again. My daughter says she can't stand it, and she's like, "Daddy, I just can't even look." No, she literally. I'm not even bullshitting. Right when I picked her up from her mom's, and she looked at me, and there wasn't even like a kiss hello or anything. She just like this blank stare, and I just can't even look at you right now. That's what she said to me. I just can't look at you. What? I'm still your dad. Like, she never, since she's almost 9 years old, she's never seen me without a beard. She's only known me with a beard. So,
well, I think that's a legit better tip to tattooing. Grow a beard, because everyone tattoos better with a beard.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why Ty and I struggle so much. We don't ever grow beards.
I'm Jewish. I can practically watch my beard grow.
I mean, I guess I can. You know what? I made the decision years ago that there were so many bearded tattooers, I just wasn't going to be one.
You know, the real power's in the handlebar. You got to get that one that goes all the way up to the sideburns. That's it.
Yeah. All right, Ty, Robin, you guys have you guys already given me a bunch of tips on tattoo. I'm just going to steal some of the stuff what you guys have already told me. This morning, I got up and tattooed this morning at like 9:30. I was supposed to be tattooing right now, but I moved things around, and I used Robin's technique with the Dan Cuban of dropping it down to like 2.7 volts, and you know,
that's what you were doing at Due South with that guy's that shoulder piece that you were doing.
Same tattoo. That's how. Yep. Yeah.
That's crazy. It was crazy. I saw that. If I didn't seen it with my own eyes, Robin, you're amazing. I literally, I couldn't believe, and how efficient he was. Like, was crazy.
I gotta know now. What is it? Do I gotta watch the podcast?
No. I don't think we've done it on the podcast. We haven't put it on the podcast. It was just a tip that she gave me. So actually, I brought it up because Howie, the day before, you were doing like you were like doing individual dots on a piece, and I was like, oh, remind me. I was like, man, remind me tomorrow to show you. I'm working on this piece to show you how Robin showed me to give the illusion of dot work, but like just motor through it. So basically, if you drop that Dan Cuban down, and I guess it will work with most any coil machine. I don't know. But
I just got a new Cuban. I'm excited to use it. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the Sidewinder. You drop it down to like 2.7 to 3 volts, and it's low enough that you have to like kickstart it. It won't start on my power supply, but and you basically just like with a small. I'm using a super tight 5-line. Robin, you use 3s, don't you?
I use a Hellfine 3, bug pin 3 with the smallest needle, like 0.6, 0.8, whatever I can find. The smallest. That's what I use.
And I'm basically just coloring, and she does a lot more, I think, kind of whip stuff. But her floral stuff is lighter anyways. There's a lot of skin through it, but I'm using it more like I'm like fully peppering things out.
That would be great.
I'm just scumbling the thing out, and it looks exactly like. I'll shoot you a photo of what I did today.
I've been engraving with these lately with the Dan Cuban. I don't know if you saw that, but I was doing the same thing. I was turning it way down. You know, tattoo machines were originally engraving machines anyway, so I figured if I could use this downtime, I was doing some of that. But even I was told you don't go below like 4.5 with it, so I was still having a little bit of trouble with that. I'll bet you that for the engraving would be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet so.
Last night, those were pretty cool, Coop. I originally thought you were messing with pyrography until I actually took the moment to read what you had written for the post.
Yeah, no, maybe I should get a video of it. It's pretty cool. Tattooing.
Yeah, no, they're pretty cool.
Yeah,
those are dope.
3 minutes to better engraving.
Yeah, that's right. 3 minutes to better engraving.
Use the COVID time, whiskey and engraving.
Right. What blew me away, what I couldn't believe when Robin first showed me that, is that it does not at all hang up in the skin. I've not at 2.7 volts. I've never once hung up in the skin. It's crazy, man. Like how it works. I would have never guessed that it would work. And there's almost no redness. It's super it's not traumatic at all, even with the, I don't know. I was surprised. I used the hell out of it now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's awesome. I'm excited to try it out now.
Yeah. I'll shoot you a photo. But Emily, are there any other questions? I'm going to wrap it up if we're not. Are we good? Yeah. Oh, they canceled the space launch. That's what we're doing. All right. What are they for weather? SpaceX. We were going to try to watch the space launch, but they canceled it. It's coming back Saturday.
Is that Emily in the background?
Say what?
Is that Emily in the background?
Yeah, Emily's in the background. She was going to read questions for us or write them down. But all right. Well, we're about 3 minutes or so over. But guys, thank you all for taking the time. I miss you all. I love you all. I hope we get to hang out again soon.
Absolutely.
Beers.
Hopefully, see you guys in person somewhere.
Yeah, great meeting you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick for everyone that's watching, I'm going to go around this way. For any of you guys who don't know, at Ty's wife, Ty's_wife, Ty P Art. You changed it.
TyP.art.
TyP.art. At Coop is at _superstition, and Howie is Howie Tattoos. So make sure to give everybody a follow if you aren't already. You guys probably all already following them, but they all do great work. And
plug ugly art.
And plug ugly art. So thank you guys, man. Good to see all of you. Hope we get to catch up soon.
Thanks for having us, Jake.
See you.
Says bye. Say what?
I was just saying thanks for having us.
Oh, absolutely, cool. Man. Thanks for doing it. Thank you guys. Thanks to Guy and Gabe for inviting us to do this. It's cool, man. I hope they do these more. I think we're going to be involved in the one that they do in October. I hope. So
I'd love to do one again. It'd be fun.
Sweet. Absolutely. Cool, guys. Have a good one. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Hey, thanks again for watching. If you haven't already, we ask that you would subscribe to our channel so you can stay up to date with new episodes. Also, if you've gotten any value out of our show at all, we would be honored if you would buy us a beer at our Patreon link. And finally, if you'd like to visit our website and sign up for our newsletter, you can find out where we are going, if we're going to be in a town near you, maybe tatting at a convention or something like that. And while you're there, you can pick up some Fireside merchandise like a new t-shirt or a hoodie or a coffee mug. Thanks again.